Hola chicos, en este video vamos a hablar de más verbos de cambio radical, more stem change verbs in the preterite tense. Antes de seguir, vamos a repasar, let's review a little bit. This slide is the last slide you saw in the last screencast. So all of these verbs, caer, leer, proveer, poseer, oír, huir, construir, destruir, influir, y incluir. At this point we should have a working memory of what they mean English to Spanish and Spanish to English. And also knowing that they change from an I to a Y and how these verbs work. If you need more help on that, go back to the other screencast. Próxima. So, lo que vamos a hacer ahora, stem change verbs in the preterite tense, E to I. So instead of I to Y verbs, now we're going to talk about verbs that change from an E to an I. Good news, once again, we're only dealing with IR verbs. On the E to I's, we're dealing with ERs and IRs. Here, it's only IR verbs. So what does that mean? Let's review our preterite tense endings, our ER and IR preterite tense endings. Always a good idea to do that. So our endings are E, iste, io, imos, istes, ieron. And the two that are going to be affected with this stem change, once again, are the third person singular and plural. So here is where we're going to see some changes, not to the endings, but to the verbs themselves. So let's get started. So, vocabulario. Primero que nada, it doesn't matter if you know how to conjugate these verbs in every tense in the Spanish language. If you don't know what they mean, they are useless to you. So let's go through these. These are going to be some new ones. There are 12 verbs, and I'm assuming that the majority of these for you guys are new, so we need to work with them. So, pedir es un verbo muy común, quiere decir to order, can also mean to ask for. So in one word, pedir, you can say to ask for in Spanish. Competir with sin means to compete. It's a cognate, nice and easy. So that one's not too bad. We probably have that one in working memory. Medir, to measure. And this is a verb that we probably haven't seen yet. Seguir, we may have seen it at some point, to follow. It also means, and it's very common, it means to continue. Of course, in Spanish you have the verb continuar, which is just like continue, so many people use that. Here's two great verbs. The verb reír means to laugh, and the verb sonreír means to smile. So they're pretty related. You know, reír is inside this sonreír, and they're commonly confused, so just be sure that you're studying them the right way. Servir is just what it looks like, it's to serve. Commonly used with the verb pedir, you order and then you get served something when you're in a restaurant. Elegir is to elect, almost looks like English. Corregir looks like it is to correct. Nice school vocab word for those of you guys that are working with that on your independent projects. Repetir might be another school vocab word as well. It means to repeat. Although you guys really on those projects want to use new vocab, not necessarily this. Conseguir is our best way to say to get, to obtain, but like to get something. Like you go to the store to get milk. That's the context. And it's important you understand that. It's not to get good grades, to go and get something. So I'm going to put in parentheses here, obtain, which we really never use in English. And then freír looks like it's to fry. Okay, I'd like to fry an egg. So bien. So we know what these mean. We don't know what they mean yet. You need to work with them. Me telling you what these mean it doesn't make you learn them. I wish I could take these words and put them in your head, but I can't. So what's your job now in class to practice with these over and over again when we do activities and to study them on your own. I, again, recommend, as I always do, and I don't work for the company, Study Blue or just traditional flashcards until you know them. We'll start adding these to our daily quizzes probably in the next couple classes. Okay, so let's take a look at 5 verbs, and these verbs will be examples of how all of these work. So we're not worried about the first and second person. These are just going to change in the third person. These are not boot verbs. Let's take pedir and let's conjugate it all the way down. I should tell you that the red here, this is where the change is going to be. So on these, it's 2 letters. So if we go back to these, that's why these are in red, so that you guys can see and you can tell where the changes are. These are where they change from E to an I. So, pedir. How do we conjugate pedir? Well, in the first 2 conjugations, it's completely regular. Sorry about my writing. Pedí, pediste. And then here is where we're going to have our change. Pidió. If we keep conjugating it, it's completely regular. Pedimos, then pedistes, and then pidieron. So you can see that these guys change in the third person, singular, and plural. So I'm not going to conjugate all these verbs all the way down. In fact, I am going to conjugate these 2, but not these ones here. You should be able to figure that out. Let's just look at them in the third person, singular and plural, where they're irregular. So competir if this E is going to be changing to an I, it's going to be compitieron. Here's where your change is. That's the third person plural. I should probably put the third person singular as well. Compitio. Keep in mind, these are not in order of conjugations. I'm just giving you the ele usted here, and then the ellos ustedes here. This one we'll do the ele usted first. This E here is going to change, so it's consiguió. Sorry, this is a U. This U stays in here, and then consiguieron. We can't get rid of this U. This U is what's going to give it the sound of the G. Okay, so the IR is the end of this verb. For some reason, people have problems with the verbs and the GU on them. All right, now sonreír and reír, and also freír, which is on the other list, have these two things underlined, and that's because these verbs just act really strangely. So let's conjugate the entire thing on these. So it's going to be just what it looks like. Sonreí, sonreíste. We learned that we need an accent on this I in the last lesson that we did, because otherwise it's pronounced sonreíste. We need this accent here for it to be pronounced sonreíste. You get down here in this form, let's do it in a different color, is where things are going to be a little bit off, a little bit irregular. This verb is now conjugated sonrió. So what happens is you kind of get rid of this E at the end. It kind of just becomes one letter less, okay? And if we go right over here to the third person plural, it's sonrieron. And the reason why is that we don't want to say, this is how it would be if it were regular. Let me just think about this. Sonreíó. This E is completely unnecessary. Sonreíó. We just want it to be pronounced sonrió. So our conjugations are the ones in green. Let's do the nosotros and the vosotros just to be thorough. So it's sonreímos, and then sonreísteis. And again, notice the accent on all the I's to make those vowels separate. So we've basically already conjugated reír by conjugating sonreír, but just again to be thorough, let's just put the two forms that are irregular in green here. So we have rió and rieron. He laughed, they laughed. Okay. Bien. So aquí tenemos las conjugaciones de los verbos de cambio radical, stem change verbs. These are going to require quite a bit of practice. First of all, getting to know what they mean, the vocabulary, and then also figuring out how to conjugate them in the preterite tense. Ok, muy bien. Muchas gracias por su atención y nos vemos en la próxima clase. Chao.